And we're back with another episode of Before You Buy, that show where we give you some straight up gameplay and our first impressions of the latest games releasing. As usual, it's me, Jake, and today we're talking about Once Human. This is another free-to-play live service game releasing the same week as another free-to-play live service game, The First Descendant. That one didn't really look like my thing, so Falcon and the team checked out The First Descendant while I jumped into this game. Once Human. This is first impressions. This one is an open world sci-fi survival third-person shooter with some quirky elements, a little bit of horror, and honestly, it's kind of like what The Day Before was saying it was going to be until that game turned out to be deemed by most players to be a scam. It's got that post-apocalyptic MMO version of The Division feel to it, but even if it partially makes good on some of those concepts, it's still got a ways to go. After spending some time with this NetEase published game up front, man, this game isn't going to interest some of you. Pretty frequent server wipes, unfinished content, and it also has a lot of the live service trappings. A battle pass, multiple currencies, multiple store pages to buy skins, emotes, and it all gets convoluted so much and cobbles it together in various complicated systems, all in the hopes of not being compelling, rewarding, or deep, but just to get you to spend more money. It has its moments as a game, but not really a lot of surprises here. We'll talk about that stuff more in a bit, but before I start complaining, what exactly is Once Human? Well, you pick a server, default is PvE, you create a character with a pretty robust character creator. You can get pretty goofy and weird with it if you want, and I really appreciate that. Then you jump into a small tutorial area where the convoluted story is kind of drip fed to you, as well as the basic mechanics. You live in a world ravaged by stardust and otherworldly forces. Basically, all you need to know is that the world is basically destroyed by cool big interdimensional monsters, and there's a kind of rift in time. There's a very trippy Death Stranding vibe to a lot of it, and when the game actually shows it, it's pretty cool. What's left of the world are bands of survivors, with a certain group having some special magical sci-fi abilities, and you're one of them. You're kind of teaming up with some beings that are kind of connected to the origin of this whole world-ending problem, and you set out to close rifts, find all these special spires, and I guess save the world. There's a lot of lore here, a lot of stuff is dumped right on you, and it's pretty messy. But there's at least somewhat of a through line. Like, as much as I'm doing an awful job of explaining it, after a few hours I was able to at least get a decent grip as to what the writers are saying is going on with this world. Ultimately, not a lot of it even matters. It's the gameplay, it's the grind. There are main mission objectives, there are side quests you can stumble upon, random events in the world, and a bunch of other stuff buried in a bunch of menus. It has the typical survival game track progression where some of the early objectives are just going through the motions, cut down a tree, build a house, build a furnace, forge a pickaxe, get some ore, craft some pants, make a gun, and make a more complicated forge thing for special ingredients, and it just keeps going. Building and crafting does work fairly well, pretty smooth for the most part, and even though I usually half-ass my little house builds, I've seen some cool ones out in the wild. But the player territories and builds and campsites are everywhere. And some of the progression is fairly interesting. It's got a solid skill tree where you unlock the ability to craft new things and get access to new things, and it's pretty in-depth and lengthy. The way it flows kind of reminds me of Pal Worlds, if you saw that recently. And along with that, you're slowly unlocking specialization for your character, as well as this other form of slotting in perks that is all well and fine, but just feels way too convoluted for its own good. It doesn't really add to anything, at least not for me personally. It's not satisfying. But with crafting weapons and gear, the weapons and stuff seem really solid. There are a lot of blueprints to pursue and find, and then you can make handguns, SMGs, all types of shotguns, rifles, magnums, and a variety of melee weapons. I like the customization. I've gotten silencers and cool scopes for a lot of weapons, and the guns and the gear have little perk slots where you can slot things in like improved pistol damage, better melee, stuff like that. And the actual combat feels decent. You know, the game takes a while to get difficult. For a while, you know, you're just kind of like mowing down boring zombie mobs, but if you trek deeper into the map, you'll find some fun and kind of weird challenging stuff. Melee is really simple, but I don't know, I found the animations and the hits somewhat satisfying. The gunplay is third person, so like you have a dodge roll, crouch, sprint, shoot type of stuff. Aiming is over the shoulder or in first person. And all that works well enough with decent weapon sounds and hit feedback. As of right now, it's only mouse and keyboard controls, so some features and options are limited, but the controls feel responsive and it helps me feel capable. You'll also gain special abilities to use in the field, and one of the most notable early ways is to have a little tiny creature in your backpack. You can find these creatures and store them at your base and choose which one to bring with you. They have different use cases like outright attacking, buffing, or creating stuff in the environment to help out. It's a nice little creative spin, but also is explained and dragged out in a weird, overcomplicated way, like a lot of the game's systems, where really it's just like, hey, you can get these little guys to help you, press a button. It's also another feature in a pretty endless list of things this game just dumps on you. Crafting, base building, leveling up, weapon customizations and weapon mods, vehicles, modding those vehicles, camping, hunting, monster collecting, among others. I commend them for having all that stuff. That's a lot of things that players want crammed in their games, but it's like a jack of all trades, master of none. And I think that leads to my biggest problem with the game. Yes, it's built as a live service game. It has all the moral and financial failings the average hardcore gamer would have a heart attack over, but I played for hours and didn't spend any money. It's hard to judge this in the early hours because these things change over time, so they could totally crap the bed on balancing and monetization, but really, it's not that stuff that bothered me as much as just how soulless the game often feels. At many points, this game just kind of feels like a PUBG mobile asset flip cash-in. You're wandering around sparse, sometimes frankly ugly environments, doing busy work, designed specifically just to keep you playing. This gameplay loop, this thing is in many other games and players often love it, but I think those games just do a better job of making it feel worthwhile or just have a special hook or spin to it. Here, you're just a generic character talking to lifeless NPCs about whatever thing is designed to get you to continue to grind. Now, like I've said, I've seen this stuff in games, I've seen the good side of it, I've seen the bad side of it, I've expressed my personal distaste for it before, but it's different with Once Human because it feels like it kind of has an identity crisis. On the one hand, it's all the stuff I just mentioned, but then every so often, you get splashes of what the game could be, dude. The real creativity. The flashy cinematics and trailers and marketing and screenshots led you to believe this is a moody, atmospheric, Death Stranding meets The Division with spooky abandoned towns, looming giant monsters in the fog, and cool sci-fi elements. That stuff is there, but it takes a while to get to it, and every so often in the early hours, you will come across this stuff. Clearing out a spooky abandoned house on a rainy night with an assault rifle and your flashlight, maybe with a couple of players you're grouped up with, maybe you stumble upon a town obscured by fog and strange objects floating in the sky. Suddenly, a rift opens in the sky and a big, nasty, gooey enemy crawls its way out through the universe, and then you gotta throw grenades at it. You know, boss battles where you fight a strange-looking, scary thing and maybe pick up a big Gatling gun to blow it away. The game has these moments sprinkled throughout. Like, this stuff is in there. It's where you can see the real potential, the real raw idea. But then it's all drowned out by endless, bland, lifeless environments, crappy player-built houses everywhere, endless menus and explainers amounting to little. And all of those elements I talked about earlier that are just there for the sake of having them all, to check all the boxes. When the game does that awesome stuff, like the spooky stuff, it's memorable, but then it's everything else around it. And this is gonna sound kind of harsh, it just kind of feels like a mobile game with basic bland assets. And the game is apparently also coming to mobile, by the way. So I guess it kind of makes sense. And this is an early access game. It still needs plenty of stuff. You know, more voice acting, more bug fixing, more vehicles, more content, more balancing, all the player feedback and all that stuff. The game has a foundation to improve upon, but will those bland moments ever improve? I don't know. I think I just really like a version of this game that was quality over quantity, less filler, less generic BS, and more of that original basic vision. It feels kind of scattershot. You know, hey, I guess you gotta make money. I don't know. That is ultimately the point of all video games, but especially free-to-play live service games. It is free, so you don't really lose much skin in the game if you try it. Maybe try it if you don't feel like spending any money right now. I don't know. Maybe you think I'm just being grumpy. Check it out for yourself. But there's just too many of these types of games now. You need to do something really special to really stand out, and I think in this early stage right now, unfortunately, Once Human is squandering those special standout moments. But hey, maybe it'll get better, maybe I'll be in the minority. These are just first impressions, and that's a before you buy. You know how this goes by now. I give you some pros, some cons, and some personal opinion, and now I want to hear yours down in the comments. Have you spent any time with Once Human? Like I said, it's free. I know the title, it says before you buy. It's just what we call these videos, okay? We know that you're not buying a free-to-play game. We see the comments. It's just, I don't know, leave us alone, man. So let me know what you think about this one if you jumped in. We're all on a level playing field here. Let me know if you love it. Let me know if you hate it. Let me know if you think it just needs a little something else. Let's talk about anything Once Human down in the comments. Now, if you enjoyed this video, clicking the like button's all you gotta do. It really helps us out. And if you're new, maybe consider subscribing, hitting that notification bell, because we put out videos every single day. But as always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.